one. The body's 97% liquid, and out of that is 85% water. Alzheimer's disease comes from lack of drinking water. The lower back problems we have come from lack of drinking water. Gallstones and kidney stones come from lack of drinking water. And then again, if someone come and told you to drink clean water, even if what they said was wrong, if it didn't do nothing for you, it's not going to do nothing against you. You have not.
There's a huge difference between the regulation of tap water and the regulation of bottled water. To put it simply, tap water, municipal drinking water, is highly regulated, and bottled water is virtually unregulated.
Every city provides a public water quality report that you can access online anytime. Bottled water companies are not required to make their reports available to the public.
Those tests can stay hidden in company filing cabinets. They can stay in, backup hard drives at bottled water companies. They don't have to be published.
We've actually
administration has recalled
bottled water that may be contaminated with
a microorganism that may cause vomiting or diarrhea.
or above World Health Organization.
Bottles are the popular brand off the shelf.
72 million bottles.
When we find out that there's something in our tap water that shouldn't be there, it's because it's constantly being tested.
Tap water is regulated under the Environmental Protection Agency.
And the EPA actually has health standards to which each municipal water provider is held.
Municipalities have to test it many, many times a day.
In a city, over 1 million has to be tested 300 times a month. In a city of 3 million and more, it has to be tested 400 times a month.
So who are you going to go with? Half of one person at the Food and Drug Administration telling you that these billions of bottles of water are safe? Or you're going to go with municipalities who are testing the water many, many, many times a day? Who do you trust?
When you're talking about the bottled water industry, you're talking about virtually no testing, and people have just assumed that what we're getting is safe. So we tested over 1,000 bottles of water and found everything from arsenic to leaching from plastic bottles to bacterial contaminants. And really what we learned from this was that you really don't know what you're getting.
But there were reports about a science class. This was a group of high school kids that decided to look at the rivers and streams as part of their science project. And in the course of that, they started running across all these little frogs with deformities. They saw so many that everybody got excited about it, and it became a national issue, to the point that what they were seeing, if you can imagine, were frogs with 3 eyes and 7 legs and 2 extra organs and things missing. And you could say, so, okay, that's a frog. Wait a minute, what significance does that have to me? Number one, we found them in our little rivers and streams here in the Pacific Northwest. They also found them in the 1,000 lakes in Minnesota, which are coming off of supposedly some pretty pristine waters over the Canadian border. These were in areas where we thought at least they would have clean water. I mean, if I had to pick a state like perhaps New Jersey, where it's been noted that the water has been bad for years, or the District of Columbia, where they don't know what in the devil they're going to do with the water there, or areas which are heavily populated, we would perhaps think that maybe I'd have a little dirty water there, but even there, people don't realize just how bad their drinking water is. When I've spoken to people from the Department of Energy, one of whom I know rather closely, and when she came to visit out here, she came with her bottle of water. And I said, well, you don't need to bring bottled water. This was a couple years ago. You don't need to bring bottled water out here. We have excellent water. She says, oh, no, it doesn't work that way. Anywhere we travel in the United States, we take our bottled water. He says, are you aware that in the state of South Carolina, right at the Georgia border, that the water almost lights up and irradiates when, if you were to put something that would allow the radiation to show? Do you realize that here in Washington State you have the largest Superfund in the United States in terms of cleaning up the water, the groundwater, as secondary to Hansford, and what took place there in the building of nuclear submarines and for a nuclear power plant. In fact, if we back up just a minute, we find that there is, since 1995, and I don't watch that much TV, but on occasion something says turn the set on, and I walked into my house one day in 1995, July of 1995, it says turn the TV on. And just at that moment, the Center for Communicable Diseases was making an announcement that I just happened to hear. It was only on for one day. So they had done their public duty to announce to the public what they wanted to say. And in that broadcast, they noted that there was no safe drinking water left in the United States. Now, people begin to say, well, I have a well, and I have excellent water because I don't have chlorine and fluorine in my water. Wrong. Most of the tributaries of the Columbia are in trouble. And if the frogs aren't news enough to you that there's a problem, I tell you, take another look. Now, when we look at those frogs, again, why are these frogs so important? If you begin to go into the coal mines around the world and they're worried about noxious gases or toxic gases being eliminated, the old rule was to send in a canary. The canary didn't come out. If the canary died, you knew you didn't go in. Well, the frogs are comparable to those canaries when we speak of the water system. They're that sensitive to critical changes in the water, enough to say to you, don't go into the water or don't drink that water. Our water's bad. And not to scare you and not to send you into a depression about it, if I said to you that the United States did not have enough money to meet the needs to change the water system, the onus then comes on us in individual families to decide what am I going to do for my family? What am I going to do to make sure that my water is tolerable? When I think of little baby
water,